They sent a message that trembled like thin glass. The Seal Nari had never begged. They were a quiet people. Their histories lived in orbital libraries. Their songs lived in tidal pools. Their skin was thin like moonlight. When a fungus rose from deep caverns and rode wind to their cities, their healers tried all they knew. Machines hummed and failed. At last the Seal Nari wrote a plea and sent it into the lanes between stars. Earth answered with a ship that smelled of coal and rain. No diplomat came in silk. The ship opened like a crate. People climbed out with sun-baked skin and hands that split stone. They wore patched jackets and scarred boots. They were not what the Seal Nari expected. The Seal Nari had asked for careful engineers. Earth sent Deathworlders. Deathworlders came from places the world fought back. They had lived where storms ate houses and sea rose angry. They were taught to keep living. Their tools were blunt. They carried chains, flame lances, pressure pumps, and a steady will. When the humans stepped into the city, a hush fell. The Seal Nari watched rough hands touch carved railings grown silver with algae. A child reached out. A human thumb brushed the child's hair back, gentle but quick to work. The Seal Nari had built gardens of light, mosaics that told of the first moon, pools that sang at night. The humans moved like storms. The fungal nests were cunning. They wove threads that sang in the dark. They wrapped the roots of the algae that fed the city lights. They could touch a mind with a humming sting. The humans saw nests and read them as a single fact: kill or be killed. The first human answer was fire. They cut stone lines and let heat eat the thickest nests. The fungus curled, shriveled, and stopped singing. The sick stopped coughing. The city lights cleared. The danger was gone. Then the cost showed. Fires left glass where soft gardens had been. Algae that made the city glow turned to black ash. Pools that had held music went still and clean. The Seal Nari counted the losses like people counting stars after a storm. Some said the humans had saved them. Others walked charred paths and said the humans had taken too much. One human, Mara, walked with a heavy pack and slow feet. Mara could open a jammed hatch in the dark. She had lost a sister to a storm and learned how to stop wind with a rope and plan. She did not love burning. She loved surviving. She watched Seal Nari press palms to black glass and whisper to things gone. Mara did not stay with the teams that burned. She learned a few Seal Nari words. Their speech was soft clicks like water. She sat by a ruined pool and let her hands move slowly in the cold wet. Children came near like shy birds. As she listened, Mara found roots that still held life. She found pockets the fungus had not reached. She found shoots of algae that kept color. With the Seal Nari she planted seeds in broken glass and taught them to shield new growth. She used small fires, careful and brief, not long furnaces. She taught how to cut a nest and leave the bright threads that fed the city. The city would hold scars like a body keeps a wound. The Seal Nari learned two truths: humans could break what they touched, and humans could sit in the ruin and try to heal it. From other systems the story spread. Some praised the clean result. Others watched the burned gardens and whispered caution. For the Seal Nari the fact was simple: they did not die that winter. They learned that help can be rough and very human. Sometimes the harsh hand comes first and the gentle hand follows. Mara sat by a green shoot that split through black glass. She sang a slow earth song to a child who could not yet say her name. The child smiled. In months small teams of humans stayed. They learned to bring liaisons who could speak and gardeners who could tend. That winter became a memory that tasted like smoke. It was a lesson that would travel faster than a plague. The galaxy would watch. For now, on the pale moon, people walked charred paths and planted fragile seeds. It was not a clean victory, but it was life. The Seal Nari kept their libraries and their songs. They paid a price. They had also been saved. As spring came, Small lights returned to pools. Birds found food again. Children learned new words. At night Mara would stand on a ruined terrace and listen to a child hum a song she had taught. It sounded like the sea between rocks. Always. The news spread faster than light. The Seal Nari lived. Their cities had not fallen. Their children were not buried in fungal roots. And yet the story came with shadows. The galaxy's networks showed images, glowing pools turned to black pits, murals burned into stone, and humans standing with smoke rising around them. Many species watched those transmissions and whispered, "Who are these humans?" To the galaxy, Earth was young, wild, and not trusted. Their home world was called a Deathworld. Storms, quakes, beasts, and plagues all woven into one planet. Other races had studied humans and said they should not have survived at all. And yet, humans not only survived, they thrived. They laughed at things that would kill softer people. They were scarred, stubborn, and impossible to break. So when the Seal Nari called for help, the consortium had expected Earth to send scientists. Maybe diplomats with polite words. Maybe healers with careful tools. Instead, Earth sent what they always sent, survivors. And now the galaxy was nervous. On the moon, Mara and her team worked each day in silence. The fungus had been pushed back, but spores lingered in cracks. The Seal Nari engineers had tried sealing those cracks with fields of soft energy. The humans shook their heads. Energy failed when batteries died. Rope and stone lasted longer. So the Deathworlders climbed cliffs with rope made from spider silk alloys. They hammered plates into walls. They dug ditches that turned air currents away from homes. The Seal Nari watched with wide eyes. To them it looked brutal, noisy, and ugly. But it worked. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, the Seal Nari Council met with Mara. "You saved us," the eldest said, his voice like wind through hollow reeds. "But you also destroyed much that cannot be replaced. Our pools, our songs, our sacred light. Did you mean to take those things away?" Mara shifted. She was not good at words. She scratched her arm, where an old burn scar still lived, and spoke plainly. "When a fire comes to your house, you don't ask the fire if it cares about your books. You throw water. You break walls. You do anything to keep your family alive. Your gardens were beautiful. I'm sorry for them. But your children are still breathing. That matters more." The council fell silent. Some nodded. Some looked away, pain carved into their faces. A young Seal Nari, barely grown, stood up. His voice trembled. "My sister used to sing by the light pools. She will never hear those songs again. Do you humans always break beauty to save life?" Mara looked at him. Her eyes were tired, but steady. "Yes," she said. "Always. Because life can make new beauty. But the dead cannot sing." The chamber filled with a heavy silence. The words were harsh, but they were true. The next day, some Seal Nari began to help the humans. They carried stone. They learned how to set small, controlled fires. They planted new algae in ruined pools. They wept as they worked, but their hands did not stop. And then something strange happened. One of the ruined terraces began to bloom. Not with the old glowing algae, but with something new. The humans had mixed Seal Nari spores with hardy earth moss. At first, the council had protested. "You are polluting our sacred plants," they cried. But within weeks, the moss spread like green fire. It held the soil in place. It drank fungus spores and starved them. At night it glowed faintly, a softer light than before, but still a light. Children began to play there again. Their laughter echoed against black stone. For the first time, the Seal Nari saw what humans meant when they said life first, beauty later. But outside their moon, the galaxy was not smiling. In distant councils, senators shouted. Do you see what Earth has done? They burn entire habitats. They mix alien life without permission. They act without rules. Others leaned forward, hungry. Yes. And it works. Look how quickly the fungus died. Look how fast the humans adapt. Imagine what they could do on our war fronts. Whispers spread, hire the Deathworlders, fear the Deathworlders, ban the Deathworlders. Every star system had an opinion. And every opinion was sharp. Back on the moon, Mara did not care about politics. She cared about the small child who followed her every step, carrying tools too big for his arms. She cared about the garden they were coaxing out of black glass. But even Mara could feel the change in the air. The galaxy had seen the human's way. And once a secret is seen, it cannot be unseen. The Seal Nari had wanted simple rescue. What they got was survival carved into stone. And survival always leaves marks. The galaxy did not sleep. Across star systems, transmissions of the humans on the Seal Nari moon were replayed over and over. News anchors in soft robes spoke with trembling voices. Military leaders whispered in dark rooms. Merchants argued in the markets. The words were always the same: Earth sent Deathworlders. Some called them saviors. Some called them monsters. All agreed they were dangerous. For centuries, the galaxy had believed that peace was fragile and must be protected with care. Species had written treaties, built neutral zones, and formed the Interstellar Relief Consortium to answer disasters. The consortium was built on rules: do not harm ecosystems, do not interfere with sacred culture, do not use violence unless all else fails. And then the humans came. The humans did not wait for permission. They burned nests, tore walls, and mixed alien life forms. They broke every rule in the book, and yet they won. The fungus was gone. The moon lived. The people survived. To the galaxy, this was terrifying. In the marble halls of the Consortium Senate, ambassadors raised their voices. A feathered Crixie shouted, "They destroy culture. They kill beauty. Today they burn gardens, tomorrow they burn worlds." A scaled Threx answered, "And yet their methods work. They save lives where others fail. If they can do in days what we cannot do in years, perhaps it is time to let them lead." The chamber shook with arguments. No one agreed. Meanwhile, more distress calls echoed through the lanes between stars. Worlds attacked by plagues. Colonies struck by storms. Mining stations eaten by mold. And everywhere, the same question: should we ask Earth? The requests came quickly. Some were desperate. Others were careful, whispering in secret. And Earth answered. Deathworlder teams began to spread. They arrived on planets with floods, quakes, fires, and infestations. Their solutions were always the same: direct, brutal, effective. They cut, burned, blasted, and rebuilt. People lived. Cities survived. But each time, something precious was lost. Forests that had stood for centuries were gone. Rivers changed paths, songs of old beasts went silent. Back on the Seal Nari moon, Mara heard the news. Her people, her rough, stubborn people, were becoming famous. Or infamous. She wasn't sure which. She sat one evening with the Seal Nari child who always followed her. The boy had grown stronger, carrying tools without stumbling now. They looked at the glowing moss on the terrace. It pulsed with life, a gift born of fire and ruin. "Why does everyone fear you?" the boy asked softly. Mara sighed. She had no easy answer. "Because we do not break the way others break. And when you do not break, others fear you might break them instead." The boy thought about this and said nothing more. But his silence carried weight. Not far away, the Seal Nari Council gathered again. They had seen their people live. They had seen children smile again. and yet they also saw what their choice had started. The galaxy was now divided, and the Selenary's name was at the center of the storm. One counselor whispered, "We only asked for help. We did not ask for this." Another answered, "But we cannot take it back. The humans are here. They saved us. And now the galaxy is watching." In secret, some Sealnari began to regret. They wondered if death might have been cleaner than the survival bought with ash and fire. Others swore loyalty to the humans, saying, "Without them, we are nothing. With them, we live." The moon itself began to split, not with fungus this time, but with opinion. Far away, on other worlds, things grew darker. On the lush planet of Ura, Deathworlders stopped a spreading plague by burning entire jungles. The jungles had been holy. Priests wept. Survivors lived, but they hated their saviors. On the mining colony of Varkun, humans sealed gas leaks with quick frozen foam that hardened like stone. The mines were saved. But half the tunnels, carved by generations, were now useless forever. Everywhere the humans went, life continued. And everywhere they went, regret followed. The galaxy was learning a hard truth: Deathworlders saved lives, but they did not save worlds the way others wanted. And still, distress calls kept coming. Because in the end, survival always mattered more than beauty. And when people are desperate, they call the ones who survive. On the Sealnari moon, Mara looked out at the stars. She knew more calls would come. She knew more worlds would burn and live at the same time. And she knew the galaxy was turning against her people, even as it needed them most. For the first time, she wondered if survival itself was enough. The galaxy had seen enough. At first, the Deathworlders were spoken of with awe. Then with doubt. And now, with fear. Every new broadcast carried images of their work: forests burning, rivers redirected, sacred grounds torn apart. Survivors were alive, yes, but the cost was always plain to see. To the galaxy, humans were not healers. They were storms given shape. In the great halls of the consortium, the debates turned sharper. No longer whispers, now shouts. "They destroy more than they save," cried a Sealnari delegate, his voice quivering with anger. "Our people are alive, but our culture is scarred forever. Is this survival? Or is this conquest by another name?" A Threx general slammed his clawed hand on the table. "You call it destruction. I call it victory. Tell me, when your child is choking on spores, do you care about gardens? The humans do what must be done. None of you had the courage." The chamber shook with noise. Alliances bent and cracked. Some wanted humans banned from relief missions. Others wanted entire fleets of them hired as permanent saviors. Fear and hunger mixed, and in that mix, the galaxy began to break apart. On the Sealnari moon, Mara felt the change. Letters arrived. Some praised her team as saints. Others cursed them as butchers. Every message carried the same truth: the galaxy could not agree on what humans really were. The Sealnari themselves had begun to divide. Whole families moved into the districts where humans lived and worked, saying, "They are harsh, but they keep us alive." Others gathered in temples, whispering, "We have survived, but at what cost? We have lost who we are." Even the children argued. Some followed Mara and the other Deathworlders, learning how to tie knots, how to light fires, how to plant new moss. Others refused, clinging to old songs, mourning what was gone. And in the middle of it all, the humans kept working. They did not understand the politics. They only understood survival. One night, Mara sat on the terrace of glowing moss. The boy who always followed her sat beside her, legs swinging. He had grown taller, stronger. His eyes no longer carried the wide fear of before. "Why do they hate you?" he asked again, softer this time. Mara thought carefully. Because when you fix something by breaking it, people only see the broken pieces, not the thing you saved. The boy looked down at the moss, its faint glow painting his face. But without you, we would all be gone. Yes, Mara said. And one day, you will grow up and choose which truth to tell, whether humans saved you, or whether humans ruined you. Both are true. And both will be remembered. The boy leaned against her arm. He didn't answer. He only breathed, alive. But far away, in places Mara could not see, the resentment was hardening. On Ura, priests declared the humans cursed. They called them bringers of fire and swore no Deathworlder would ever set foot on their planet again. On Varkun, miners cursed their sealed tunnels, shouting that humans stole their heritage in the name of safety. And in darker corners, leaders began to whisper dangerous thoughts. What if Earth is not just helping? What if Earth is testing us? What if this is the first step toward control? The consortium tried to calm the storm, but words could not undo what had already been shown. Every world had seen the same truth: humans survived, but survival with them was never clean. On the Seal-Nari moon, the council met in secret. The eldest spoke: "We asked them for help. And they gave it. But now the galaxy hates us for bringing them here. Did we save our people, or doom ourselves to be remembered as the ones who unleashed them?" No one answered. The silence was heavy. And in that silence, one thing grew clear: regret was no longer just a quiet feeling. It was becoming a movement. The Seal-Nari had begged for help. Earth had answered. The galaxy had watched. And now, the galaxy wanted to take back the invitation. The storm finally broke. It began with a vote inside the consortium. For weeks the chamber had echoed with endless arguments. But now the decision came. A decree was passed: no human team could answer a relief call without strict approval. It was a ban wrapped in polite words. The galaxy had decided it was safer to hold Earth back. When the news reached the Seal-Nari moon, the council gathered at once. Some cheered, relieved that no other world would face the fire and ruin they had endured. Others shook their heads in fear. One counselor whispered, "If disaster comes again, who will save us?" None but the humans could stop the fungus. But their voices were drowned in celebration. Across the galaxy, festivals were held. Statues were draped with banners that read, "Order restored." And yet, disasters did not stop. On the icy world of Bernak, storms shattered entire domes. Hundreds died before aid arrived. On Vera, a parasite swept through crops, and by the time consortium healers reached the fields, famine had already begun. In secret, angry voices rose: if the humans had come, would these lives have been lost? The ban had created division deeper than before. Those who hated the humans were loud. But those who missed them were desperate. On the Seal-Nari moon, Mara worked in silence. She no longer led burn teams. She no longer built stone walls. Instead, she taught. Children gathered in the terraces of glowing moss, learning knots, learning to tend fires without destroying, learning the balance between force and care. But one evening, a messenger arrived with a heavy face. He spoke to Mara quietly, so the children would not hear. "There is a fire on the rimward frontier. A world is burning. They begged for your people, but the consortium has forbidden it." Mara's jaw tightened. She had seen fire before. She had seen what delay cost. She knew what would happen. The next day, news reached them: 10,000 dead. The Seal-Nari Council met again. And for the first time, regret was spoken aloud in public. "Perhaps we were wrong," said one elder. "Perhaps life, even scarred, is better than death untouched." But before the council could decide, ships arrived above the moon. They were not human ships. They were consortium patrols. The message was clear: the humans are not welcome anymore. They must leave. The Seal Nari were stunned. You cannot force this, they protested. They saved us. They live among us. But the patrol leader only answered coldly. You brought them here. Now you must let them go. The galaxy has chosen. For the first time, Mara felt the weight of rejection. She had burned to save. She had planted to heal. She had taught children to live. And now she was being asked to walk away. That night, the boy who always followed her sat by the moss garden, tears in his eyes. They can't take you, he whispered. You're one of us now. Mara placed a call-used hand on his shoulder. I am human. And the galaxy fears humans. Fear does not listen to reason. The boy shook his head. Then I will leave with you. No, Mara said firmly. This is your world. You must stay and keep living. That is the lesson I taught you, isn't it? The boy's tears fell onto the glowing moss. Its faint light shivered like a heartbeat. Above them, the patrol ships circled. The message repeated, leave, or be removed. And all across the galaxy, other worlds watched. Some cheered, glad to see the Deathworlders pushed back. Others whispered in dread, knowing that the next disaster was always coming, and that the ones who survived best were now being sent away. The Seal Nari had once begged for help. Earth had answered. Now the galaxy begged for silence. And Earth was listening. For a moment, it seemed the story was ending. The humans would leave. The galaxy would return to its fragile order. But deep inside, where storms and fire lived, humans were not built to stay silent. And the next chapter was already waiting. The humans left. Their ships lifted from the Seal Nari moon like dark birds. No banners, no farewells from the consortium, only silence broken by engines. The patrol ships followed close, watching until every human vessel had jumped to faster than light. The Seal Nari stood in the streets, watching the skies empty. Some wept. Some clapped in relief. Many only stood in silence, unsure if they had lost saviors or banished destroyers. Mara walked up the ramp of her ship with her pack on her shoulders. She did not look back, but the boy ran alongside until the gates closed. His hand pressed to the glass. Hers pressed back from the other side. No words passed between them. Only the weight of separation. For the first time in months, the Seal Nari moon was quiet. Too quiet. But quiet does not last in a galaxy full of storms. Only weeks after the humans were gone, a shadow fell across 3 star systems on the rim. It was not fire this time. Not plague. Not storm. It was something worse. The Myrr, a warlike species thought long dead, had returned. Their fleet struck with speed. Colonies burned. Whole cities were harvested for resources. The Myrr had no interest in treaties, no care for rules. They had slept for centuries, and now they were hungry. Distress calls filled the networks. Every world screamed for help. The consortium dispatched fleets, but their ships were too slow, their orders too tangled in debate. Relief arrived late, and each time the same reports came back: cities lost, thousands dead, the Myrr unstoppable. And then came the words the galaxy had hoped never to hear. Bring back the Deathworlders. The consortium leaders balked. Impossible, they said. We voted. They are dangerous. They are forbidden. But the people did not care. Families were dying. Worlds were falling. Every survivor asked the same question: who else can fight like them? Who else can face fire with fire? On the Seal Nari moon, the council gathered once again. The elders spoke of danger, of regret, of the vote that had cast humans away. But in the streets, the people shouted. They remembered the fungus. They remembered how the humans had acted, harsh but effective. Better to lose our gardens, cried one mother, than to lose our children. The voices grew loud. Too loud to ignore. Far away, on Earth, Mara and her team received secret messages. Please, written in trembling words. Come back. We were wrong. We need you. Mara stared at the messages on her screen. She thought of the boy on the moon. She thought of the glowing moss, alive because of human stubbornness. She thought of the patrol ships that had pushed them out. Her crew waited for her answer. Finally, Mara spoke, we go where survival is needed. That is who we are. If the galaxy regrets us, let them regret us again. But we will not sit idle while worlds burn. The Deathworlders began to gather. Old miners, divers, stormwalkers, and mercenaries. They carried tools of steel and fire. They packed ropes and fuel. They sharpened their will. The galaxy had tried to silence them. But survival cannot be silenced. Meanwhile, the MYRR spread faster. On the third world they struck, half the population was taken before the consortium even launched ships. The survivors sent one final message across the stars, we do not need rules. We need humans. The galaxy had once begged Earth for help, then begged them to leave. Now, with shadows falling across the stars, the galaxy was about to beg again. And this time, the Deathworlders would decide the terms. The galaxy begged again. This time the begging was not polite. It was desperate. Worlds were falling to the MYRR. Colonies were ash. Refugee ships clogged the lanes between stars. The consortium Senate shouted day and night, but no law or treaty could stop the burning fleets. At last, the words spread like fire, bring back the humans. And so, Earth answered. But they did not return in silence, nor with bowed heads. They came with fleets of patched-together ships, old hulls wrapped in new steel, engines that roared like storms. They came with miners and divers, climbers and soldiers. They came with people who had survived every cruelty a planet could throw at them. The galaxy had asked for Deathworlders. And Deathworlders came. On the edge of the rim, where the MYRR fleet swarmed, the first human convoy arrived. They carried no grand weapons. No shining fleets of gold. What they brought were explosives carved from mining charges, lances made from welded pipes, and a will sharper than any blade. The MYRR laughed when they saw them. But the laughter ended quickly. Humans fought with madness and precision both. They rammed their ships into enemy hulls, carving tunnels in steel and fighting hand-to-hand in the dark. They used every trick, chemical floods, improvised fire, sabotage that turned the MYRR's own machines against them. Every battle was chaos. And every battle ended the same way, the humans still standing. News spread faster than the MYRR attacks. The galaxy watched as the impossible happened. The unstoppable fleet was stopped. Not by polished armies. Not by careful plans. But by the raw fury of Deathworlders. The consortium Senate was shaken. Some leaders cried, "See! They save us again." Others shouted, "No! They are too wild. Today they fight the MYRR. Tomorrow, they will fight us." But the people did not listen to the Senate. Refugees, survivors, colonists, they all cheered the humans. They cheered their scars, their fire, their victories. Back on the Seal moon, the boy ran through glowing moss gardens shouting the news, "The humans are winning." His voice carried through the terraces, filling them with hope. Elders who once cursed Mara now sat in silence, remembering the day she had warned them, life first, beauty later. Mara herself fought on the rim. Her ship bore new scars with every battle. Her crew slept little and bled often, but their spirits burned bright. In every clash, she remembered the boy, the moss, the words of regret. She fought not just to win but to show the galaxy that survival was worth the scars. The MYRR, once feared beyond reason, began to falter. They had expected the galaxy to crumble. Instead, they met an enemy that refused to die. They met Deathworlders who had already lived through worse. But victory did not come without cost. Every world the humans saved bore the same marks as the Seal Nari moon: burned fields, broken temples, changed rivers. People lived, but their homes were never the same. Some thanked the humans with tears of joy. Others cursed them with tears of rage. The galaxy was split more than ever. The consortium could no longer hide the truth. They had tried to push humans away. They had tried to silence them. But when the greatest crisis came, only Deathworlders stood firm. And now, the galaxy owed them a debt it did not want to pay. In council chambers, whispers turned darker. What happens when the MYRR are gone? Will the humans stop? Or will they keep reshaping every world they touch? And yet, despite the fear, more distress calls went out. And every single one asked for the same thing: send us the Deathworlders. The galaxy regretted inviting Earth once. Then they regretted banishing them. Now, as the humans carved victory out of fire and ruin, a new regret began to grow, one deeper and sharper than all the rest. What if the galaxy cannot live without them? The humans kept winning. System after system, the MYRR fell back. Their fleets, once feared like nightmares, now broke apart under the chaos humans carried into battle. Every fight followed the same pattern. The consortium fleets arrived first, shining and orderly, but they faltered under the ferocity of the MYRR. Then the humans came, ragged and wild, breaking rules, breaking formations, breaking everything except their will to survive. And always, somehow, the humans turned the tide. Refugee ships filled with survivors followed their path. In burned colonies, children pointed at the sky, waiting for human vessels to descend. Soldiers of other species stood taller when fighting beside them. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy whispered a dangerous word: hope. But hope was never simple. The consortium Senate met day after day, arguing with raised voices and sharpened words. Some shouted, without the humans, the rim would already be gone. Others shouted back, they are too strong, too reckless. We cannot let them decide the galaxy's fate. The truth was bitter. The galaxy now leaned on Earth like a crutch. And with every battle, the weight of that dependence grew heavier. On the Seal Nari moon, the boy still told stories of the humans. He ran through the moss gardens, shouting of battles won and enemies defeated. But the elders looked at each other with unease. The moss glowed bright now, healthier than ever, yet none of them forgot the flames that had once consumed their forests. One elder whispered, they save us, yes. But each time they save us, they change us. How many times can we be saved before we are no longer ourselves? The question spread across the galaxy. It whispered in temples, in marketplaces, in homes. And Mara heard it, too. She sat at the edge of her ship, boots stained with ash, armor dented and scorched. Her crew slept nearby, exhausted from another fight. The stars stretched endless before her, but her mind returned to that moon, to that boy pressing his hand to the glass. She remembered how the consortium patrols had driven them out. She remembered how quickly regret had turned to desperation when the MYRR came. And she wondered, what happens when survival is no longer enough? The answer came sooner than expected. The MYRR did not retreat into darkness. They gathered. They adapted. They forged weapons meant to break even Deathworlders. In a single night, 3 human fleets were ambushed. Ships torn apart. Thousands lost. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans bleed and not rise again. Fear shifted. The Senate panicked. Some declared, this proves they are not invincible. Others whispered, if the humans can be beaten, what will happen to us when they fall? But the people were not ready to give up their saviors. Across burned colonies, voices cried out louder than ever. Send more humans. Give them whatever they ask. Without them, we are already dead. And so, for the first time in history, the consortium signed a pact they had sworn never to consider. A pact that gave humans freedom to act beyond any law, beyond any Senate command. Deathworlders were no longer guests. They were no longer outcasts. They were guardians unleashed. Mara's ship received the message first. She read the words twice, slowly, her breath catching at the weight of them. The consortium had granted them what no other species had ever been allowed, complete authority in war. Her crew cheered. Some laughed, others cried. But Mara only stared into the stars. She knew what this meant. The galaxy did not just rely on humans. Now, it belonged to them. And somewhere deep in the halls of the Senate, a new kind of regret began to bloom. Not regret for asking them. Not regret for banishing them. But regret for giving them power. The war changed the galaxy. Not because the MYRR were winning, but because the humans were. With the new pact signed, Deathworlders no longer needed to ask for permission. They no longer waited for orders from the Senate. They moved where they wished, fought where they chose, and acted without restraint. And their results were undeniable. MYRR fleets shattered under sudden ambushes. Colonies once thought lost were retaken. Civilians who had given up hope found themselves alive again, standing in the shadow of human victories. To many, the humans were heroes. But heroes do not make everyone comfortable. In the Senate halls, whispers grew sharp. Some leaders asked, what happens when the MYRR are gone? Will humans give back this power? Or will they keep it? Others asked darker questions, if humans can win where we cannot, then what place do we have left? Are we leaders or are we ruled by survivalists who answer to no one? And so, even as celebrations spread through the colonies, fear took root in the hearts of the powerful. Mara felt it, too. Her crew had grown larger. Other species joined them, volunteers who had fought beside humans and wanted to learn their ways. Miners, divers, medics, soldiers, all drawn to the wild spark humans carried. Together, they fought like a storm. Yet in quiet moments, Mara saw the wary looks in their eyes. Gratitude, yes. Loyalty, yes. But also unease. Unease that came from realizing humans did not fight for medals or orders. They fought for survival, and survival had no limits. On the Seal Nari moon, the boy still told stories in the glowing moss gardens. His voice was proud, his eyes shining as he shouted, the Deathworlders are saving everyone. But this time, the elders did not smile. They listened in silence, their hands folded tight, their eyes shadowed. One elder finally spoke, the boy cheers. But does he know what happens when the saving is done? Does he know what price comes after? The question spread through homes and marketplaces. People loved the humans, but they also feared them. The same hands that saved could also destroy. And then came the moment that turned whispers into fire. A human fleet, chasing a MYRR raiding group, destroyed an entire orbital shipyard. The MYRR had hidden inside, using civilian workers as cover. The humans saw through the trap, but they struck anyway, fast, brutal, effective. The MYRR died. So did the workers. Thousands of innocent lives, gone in the crossfire. The MYRR threat was ended in that sector. But the news spread across the galaxy like a wound. Crowds filled the streets on a dozen worlds. Some shouted praise, they saved us again. Others shouted fury, they kill too easily. They bring ruin with their victories. The Senate was thrown into chaos. Some demanded the pact be revoked, calling humans reckless, dangerous, uncontrollable. Others argued it was too late, the galaxy could not survive without them now. And through it all, the humans kept fighting. Mara heard the news of the shipyard while standing over a battlefield still thick with smoke. She closed her eyes, her jaw clenched, her heart heavy. She had warned her crew, again and again, survival first. Life first. But do not forget what that means. But war was war. And war burned everything it touched. Now the galaxy was caught in a trap of its own making. They had begged for humans. They had given them power. They had let Deathworlders shape the war. And now, for the first time, they asked themselves, what if the humans do not stop? The boy on the Seal Nari moon still pressed his hand against the glass every night, staring at the stars, waiting for the day Mara would return. To him, humans were not monsters. They were hope. They were the reason his maw still glowed. But in the Senate halls, the whispers grew louder. Plans were drawn in secret. Old alliances forged in fear. The galaxy wanted humans. The galaxy needed humans. But the galaxy also feared humans more than ever before. And fear, like fire, was not easily contained. The war reached its end. The MYRR, once feared as unstoppable, were broken. Their fleets scattered. Their worlds burned. Their leaders, proud and merciless, were dragged down by the very chaos they had unleashed. And everywhere the galaxy looked, one truth was clear. It was the humans who had won. Not the Senate. Not the grand fleets. Not the careful planners of the consortium. It was the Deathworlders, wild, reckless, unyielding, who had turned defeat into survival. But victory brought no peace. In the ruins of battlefields, questions grew sharper. On one world, survivors built statues of humans, carved in steel and fire. On another, crowds tore down banners and cursed their names. The galaxy was divided. Grateful, but afraid. The Senate gathered one final time. For days they argued, voices rising higher and higher, until the truth spilled into the open. Without humans, we would all be dead, said one counselor. And with humans, we may lose everything that makes us who we are, answered another. Fear of the future weighed as heavy as the war itself. And in the middle of it all stood Mara. She and her crew landed on the Seal Nari moon, not as outcasts, not as saviors, but simply as themselves. The boy was waiting, older now, his eyes wide with pride. He ran to her, pressed his hand against hers, just as he had the day she left. You came back, he whispered. Mara knelt, meeting his eyes. We promised we would. And we kept it. The glowing moss stretched all around them, brighter than ever. Life had survived. The forests would never be the same, but they were alive. And in that living light, the boy asked the question the galaxy had no answer for. Will you stay? Mara hesitated. Behind her, her crew waited. Above her, the stars stretched endless. She knew the truth, though she wished it were different. We cannot stay, she said softly. Where there is fire, where there is storm, where there is shadow, we must go. That is who we are. The boy's face fell, but he nodded. He understood, even if it hurt. The council elders stepped forward then. Their voices trembled. You have saved us more than once, one said. But we fear you more than we fear any enemy. What are we to do with you, Deathworlder? Mara rose. She looked at them, at the boy, at the moss, at the moon she had scarred and saved all at once. Do nothing, she said. Do not praise us. Do not curse us. Only remember this, when you begged for help, we came. When you told us to leave, we left. When you begged again, we returned. We are not here to rule you. We are here to survive and to help you survive, if you will let us. Her words spread far beyond the moon. They reached the halls of the Senate, the burned colonies, the refugee ships drifting between stars. And though the galaxy still argued, still feared, still regretted, they also remembered. They remembered that when every other hope had failed, the humans had not. And so, the war ended not with peace, but with truth. The galaxy had asked for help. Earth had answered. The galaxy had regretted them. Earth had left. The galaxy had begged again. Earth had returned. And now, the galaxy lived but lived forever changed. The Deathworlders were not gods. They were not monsters. They were simply human. And that, the galaxy finally understood, was enough.